There are seasons in life when it feels like heaven is silent. You pray, you believe, you work hard, yet nothing changes. The opportunities do not come. The healing does not happen. The doors remain closed. And after waiting so long, the human heart begins to wonder, God, have you forgotten me? But today, hear this clearly. God has not forgotten you. What has been delayed is about to be released. Many people mistake delay for denial. Just because it has not happened yet does not mean it will never happen. God operates on divine timing, not human timing. We want immediate answers, instant breakthroughs, and overnight miracles, but God often works through preparation before manifestation. Before the blessing is released, the person receiving it must be prepared to carry it. Sometimes God delays because he is protecting you from receiving something too early. A blessing released before the right season can become a burden instead of a breakthrough. God sees what you cannot see. He knew. Owes the battles ahead, the people ahead, and the responsibilities ahead. While you are praying for the blessing, God is shaping you for the blessing. The waiting season is not wasted. Every tear, every prayer, every lonely night has purpose. God is building strength in you. He is teaching you to trust him beyond your emotions. Faith is not believing only when things are good. Faith is standing firm when everything around you says give up. There are people listening right now who almost lost hope. You have been waiting for restoration in your family, healing in your body, peace in your mind, financial breakthrough, or an answered prayer you have carried for years. But God says the delay is coming to an end. What looked impossible is about to move. What stayed locked is about to open. Remember this? God can change your situation in one moment. One phone call can change your life. One opportunity can shift your future. One miracle can erase years of struggle. Do not underestimate what God can do suddenly. The enemy wants you discouraged because he knows something powerful is near. The greatest battles often come before the greatest breakthroughs. When pressure increases, it is often a sign that your season is changing. Do not quit now. Do not stop praying now. Do not walk away now. You are too close to what God promised. Keep worshiping while you wait. Keep believing while you wait. Keep serving while you wait. Your faith during the delay is proof that you trust God more than your circumstances. And when God releases what has been delayed, it will not just bless you, it will reveal his power to everyone around you. People will look at your life and know that only God could have done it. The pain will make sense. The waiting will make sense. The struggle will make sense. God is faithful. His promises never expire. What he spoke over your life still stands. The delay did not cancel your destiny. Your season is changing. Your breakthrough is coming. Your prayers are being answered. God is releasing what has been delayed. There are moments in life when silence becomes difficult to understand. You pray with faith, you trust with sincerity, and you wait with expectation, yet nothing seems to move. Days become months, and months become years. During those seasons, the heart naturally begins to question whether God still sees the struggle. Many people carry hidden pain because they expected answers sooner. They thought the opportunity would already be here, the healing would already happen, the family would already be restored, or the breakthrough would already arrive. But when things do not happen according to human timing, discouragement slowly tries to enter the mind. One of the greatest battles believers face is learning how to trust God when there is no visible evidence that things are changing. It is easy to praise when doors are opening, but true faith is developed when the doors remain closed and you still choose to believe. God never abandons his people in difficult seasons. Silence does not mean absence. Delay does not mean rejection. Heaven may appear quiet, but God is still working behind the scenes in ways the human eye cannot see. Sometimes people assume that if God truly cared, everything would happen quickly and smoothly. But throughout life, God often works through process rather than instant results. Process builds strength. Process develops patience. Process teaches dependence on God instead of dependence on emotions or circumstances. If everything happened immediately, many people would never grow spiritually. They would celebrate the blessing but never develop the character needed to sustain it. There are things happening in the unseen realm that people do not recognize. While you are waiting, God is arranging details, moving obstacles, preparing opportunities, and aligning circumstances. What feels delayed to you may actually be perfect timing from God's perspective. He sees the entire picture while humanity sees only the present moment. God knows which doors should open and which ones should stay shut. Some closed doors are actually protection. Some delays are preventing future pain. Some seasons of waiting are preparing you for responsibilities you are not yet ready to carry. The problem is that human emotions often interpret delay as abandonment. The enemy whispers thoughts like, nothing is going to change, or God has forgotten about you. Those thoughts create heaviness in the heart. They weaken motivation and attack faith. But you must learn to reject those lies. God does not forget his promises. He does not lose track of your prayers. Every tear matters to him. Every moment of pain is seen by him. Even when nobody else understands your struggle, God understands completely. There are people who feel exhausted because they have carried disappointment for a long time. They trusted before and things did not work out the way they expected. They prayed before and still experience said heartbreak. Because of that, they now approach life with fear and hesitation. They protect themselves emotionally because they do not want to be disappointed again. But God does not want fear to replace faith. He wants people to trust that his plans are still good, even after painful seasons. Waiting seasons often reveal what is truly inside the heart. When everything is delayed, people discover whether their faith is built on circumstances or built on trust in God's character. Anyone can believe when miracles are visible, but strong faith continues believing before the miracle appears. That kind of faith moves heaven. That kind of trust pleases God because it says, even if I do not understand what you are doing, I still believe you are faithful. Many times, people focus only on what they have lost, but they fail to recognize what God preserved them from. There are situations that look promising but would have brought destruction later. There are relationships that ended because, God saw future pain you could not see. There are opportunities that disappeared because they were distractions from your real purpose. In the moment, disappointment feels painful, but later wisdom reveals why certain things had to happen the way they did. God's timing carries wisdom that human understanding cannot fully comprehend. What seems slow to you is never slow to him. He knows the exact moment when the blessing will have the greatest impact. He knows when your heart is mature enough, when the environment is right, and when the purpose behind the blessing can truly unfold. Nothing catches God by surprise. Nothing is out of his control. So even in the waiting, continue praying, continue believing, continue waking up every day with expectation instead of despair. Refuse to allow bitterness to grow inside your heart. Refuse to let disappointment convince you that your future is empty. God is still writing your story. The chapter you are in now is not the final chapter. What feature? L's delayed today can suddenly change tomorrow because God has the power to shift circumstances in ways nobody expects. The silence will not last forever. The waiting season will not continue forever. At the right time, what God promised will begin to unfold. And you will realize that he was with you during every painful moment, every confusing season, and every night you wondered if your prayers were being heard. There are seasons in life when nothing seems to move forward. You pray for change, but the situation remains the same. You work hard, yet the results do not appear. You believe for open doors, but every opportunity seems delayed. In those moments, frustration begins to grow because people naturally want quick answers and immediate breakthroughs. But many do not realize that delays are often part of God's preparation process. What feels like waiting is sometimes spiritual training for the next level of your life. Preparation seasons are rarely comfortable. They stretch pity. NCE challenge emotions and test faith. Most people enjoy blessings, but very few enjoy the process that comes before the blessing. Yet God often uses hidden seasons to shape character before he releases purpose. He understands that if the blessing arrives before the person is prepared, success can become destruction instead of favor. A person may pray for influence, but influence requires wisdom. Someone may ask for financial increase, but financial increase requires discipline and maturity. Another may desire leadership, but leadership demands patience, humility, and strength under pressure. God is not only focused on giving you what you ask for, He is focused on preparing you to handle it correctly. If He released everything too early, many people would lose the very thing they prayed for because they were not ready to sustain it. Preparation often happens in silence. During those hidden seasons, it may look like nothing important is happening, but God is doing deep work within. The heart. He exposes pride, removes unhealthy habits, strengthens discipline, and teaches dependence on Him. Those lessons are not learned during easy moments. They are usually learned during difficult seasons where people have no choice but to trust God daily. The challenge is that many people only value visible progress. They feel successful when they can see immediate results. But spiritual growth does not always happen publicly. Some of the greatest transformations happen privately where nobody else notices. God works in hidden places because He cares more about inner strength than outward appearance. Before He changes your circumstances, He often changes your mindset. Before He elevates your position, He develops your character. Think about how pressure shapes people. Difficult seasons teach lessons that comfort never could. Waiting teaches patience. Rejection teaches humility. Struggles teach perseverance. Pain teaches compassion for others. Delays teach trust in God's timing instead of human control. Every challenge carries a lesson that prepares you for the future God has planned. Many people pray for strength, but strength is developed through resistance. Nobody becomes spiritually mature without facing difficult moments. Just as muscles grow through pressure and resistance, faith grows through trials and testing. If life were always easy, people would never discover the depth of God's power working within them. Hard seasons often reveal strength that people never knew they possessed. There are also times when God uses delays to redirect people away from wrong paths. What looks like a setback may actually be divine protection. Sometimes the opportunity you desperately wanted would have taken you away from your purpose. Sometimes the relationship you wanted to keep would have created future pain. God sees beyond the current moment. He knows the consequences people cannot yet see. That is why His preparation process includes both opening certain doors, ninth, closing others. One of the hardest things during preparation seasons is remaining faithful when there is no visible reward. Human nature wants recognition, progress, and evidence that things are improving. But true faith continues moving forward even without immediate results. It keeps praying even when answers seem delayed. It keeps believing even when circumstances look impossible. That kind of faith builds spiritual endurance. God also uses preparation seasons to teach people dependence on Him rather than dependence on temporary things. When everything is comfortable, people sometimes forget how much they need God. But during waiting seasons, prayer becomes deeper, worship becomes more sincere, trust becomes stronger. The relationship with God grows because people begin seeking Him not just for blessings, but for strength, peace, and guidance. Some individuals become bitter during delays because they focus only on what they have not received yet. They compare their lives to OT, hurry and wonder why someone else seems to move ahead faster. But comparison destroys peace because every person has a different assignment and a different timing. God's process for one person may look completely different from His process for another. Just because someone else receives something sooner does not mean God has forgotten you. Preparation seasons are not punishment. They are evidence that God is working on something greater than you currently understand. He is building a foundation strong enough to carry the weight of your future. A building with a weak foundation cannot survive heavy storms. In the same way, a person without spiritual preparation may collapse under the pressure of success, responsibility, or influence. The waiting season may feel long, but it is never meaningless. Every prayer, every disappointment, Every lesson and every challenge is shaping you into the person you need to become. God is preparing your heart, your mind, and your spirit for what is ahead. D, and when the right moment arrives, you will understand that the delay was not wasted time. It was preparation for a greater purpose that required greater strength, greater wisdom, and deeper faith. There comes a moment in every difficult season when exhaustion begins to whisper to the heart. After waiting for so long, after praying through countless nights, after carrying disappointment again and again, people naturally begin to wonder how much longer they can continue believing. The struggle feels endless. The silence feels heavy. Every closed door seems to confirm the fear that nothing will ever change. But even in those moments, there is a truth that must be remembered. Your breakthrough is often closer than you think. Many people give up too early because they judge their future based on what they currently see. Human vision is limited to the present moment, but God is already working ahead of you. Just because nothing appears to be moving does not mean nothing is happening. So, many of the greatest miracles begin in invisible places long before they appear publicly. God can be arranging opportunities, shifting circumstances, preparing people, and opening doors while you are unaware of it. The problem is that delays create emotional fatigue. When someone waits too long, hope can slowly weaken. Discouragement begins to grow because repeated disappointment attacks the mind. People start lowering their expectations to protect themselves from future pain. They stop dreaming boldly. They stop praying with confidence. They stop expecting change because disappointment convinced them that expecting too much will only lead to heartbreak again. But faith requires the courage to believe beyond visible evidence. Faith says, even though I cannot see it yet, I trust that God is still working. That kind of trust becomes powerful because it refuses to let circumstances define what is possible. Some breakthroughs happen gradually, but others happen suddenly. One moment can completely change the direction of your life. A person can struggle financially for years and suddenly receive an opportunity they never expected. Someone can battle emotional pain for a long time and suddenly experience peace they thought would never return. A relationship can remain broken for years and suddenly begin to heal. One conversation, one connection, one answered prayer, or one act of God's favor can shift everything overnight. People often underestimate how quickly God can move. Humans focus on time, but God focuses on purpose. What takes people years to accomplish can happen instantly when God's timing arrives. That is why you cannot allow temporary delays to destroy permanent hope. The waiting season is not proof that your future is empty. It may actually be evidence that something significant is being prepared. There are moments when the pressure increases because breakthrough is near. The enemy often attacks hardest before something changes. Fear becomes stronger. UBT becomes louder. Negative thoughts become heavier. The temptation to quit becomes more intense. Why? Because the closer people get to their breakthrough, the more opposition they may face. The enemy wants them to stop believing right before the answer arrives. This is why perseverance matters. You cannot allow temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. Some people walk away from their breakthrough because they become tired one season too early. They stop praying. They stop trying. They stop trusting. They convince themselves that nothing good is ahead because the process became painful. But if they could see what God was preparing behind the scenes, they would realize that giving up now would mean walking away too soon. God often works in ways that surprise people. He opens doors nobody expected. He creates opportunities from impossible situations. He brings restoration out of brokenness and purpose out of pain. Human logic cannot always explain how God works because his power. R is greater than human limitations. What seems impossible to people is still possible with God. Sometimes breakthrough does not only involve external blessings. Sometimes the greatest breakthrough happens internally. A person who once lived in fear suddenly finds courage. Someone trapped in bitterness suddenly experiences freedom. A heart filled with anxiety suddenly receives peace. God cares about inner transformation as much as outward change because lasting breakthrough begins inside the soul. The waiting season can also strengthen gratitude. When people struggle for something over a long period of time, they appreciate it differently when it finally arrives. They value the blessing more because they understand the process behind it. Delays often produce humility because people recognize that the breakthrough came through God's grace rather than human ability alone. There are people listening who feel like they are standing at the edge of giving up. They feel emotionally drained from carrying burdens nobody else fully understands. Every day feels like a battle between hope and discouragement. But this is not the time to surrender your faith. This is the time to remain expectant. Your current situation is not the final chapter of your story. Keep praying even when answers seem delayed. Keep believing even when circumstances look impossible. Keep trusting God even when emotions tell you otherwise. The breakthrough may not arrive according to your schedule, but that does not mean it is absent. God knows exactly when to move, exactly how to move, and exactly what is needed to change your situation. One moment of favor can erase years of frustration. One divine opportunity can redirect your future. One breakthrough can restore the hope you almost lost. And when it finally happens, you will realize that God was working during every silent season, every painful delay, and every moment when you wondered if your prayers were still being heard. Faith becomes most powerful when life becomes most difficult. It is easy to trust God when prayers are being answered quickly, when doors are opening, and when everything seems to be moving in the right direction. But the true test of faith comes during seasons of delay, uncertainty, and silence. It comes when nothing changes despite your prayers. It comes when you continue believing even though your circumstances give you no visible reason to remain hopeful. Many people begin their journey with strong faith, but over time disappointment weakens their confidence. Repeated delays create frustration. Unanswered prayers create confusion. Difficult seasons create emotional exhaustion. Eventually, some people stop expecting anything to change because they are tired of waiting. They still believe in God, but deep inside, they no longer believe breakthrough is coming for them personally. This is one of the enemy's greatest strategies. He understands that if he cannot destroy your purpose directly, he will try to. Weaken your faith gradually. He wants discouragement to replace expectation. He wants fear to replace trust. He wants disappointment to become so heavy that you stop praying with confidence. The enemy knows that once people lose faith, they often stop pursuing what God placed in their hearts. That is why maintaining faith during waiting seasons is so important. Faith is not just believing when life feels comfortable. Faith is choosing to trust God when everything around you appears uncertain. It is waking up each day and saying, even though I do not understand this season, I still believe God is working. That kind of faith requires spiritual strength because human emotions naturally focus on visible evidence. The challenge is that delays often make people feel forgotten. When nothing changes for a long period of time, the mind begins creating negative conclusions. People start asking questions like, what if nothing ever changes? Or what if my prayers are being ignored? That. Doubts can become dangerous if they are not confronted with truth. You cannot allow temporary emotions to define eternal promises. There will always be moments when faith feels difficult. Even strong believers experience seasons where they feel tired, confused, or discouraged. Faith does not mean pretending pain does not exist. It means refusing to let pain become greater than your trust in God. You can acknowledge your struggle while still believing that God remains faithful. Some people think faith means never feeling fear, but real faith often exists in the middle of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is continuing forward despite fear. In the same way, faith is continuing to trust even when doubts try to enter your mind. The enemy may attack your thoughts, but you must learn to guard your heart and focus on God's promises instead of your emotions. One reason faith becomes weak during delays is because people constantly focus on what they cannot see. They focus on the closed doors, the unanswered prayers, and the visible problems. But faith requires attention to shift away from the problem and toward God's power. When people only meditate on obstacles, fear grows stronger. When they meditate on God's faithfulness, hope begins to rise again. There are countless moments in life where breakthrough seemed impossible until suddenly everything changed. God has a way of moving at the exact right moment. Human timing often creates pressure, but God's timing carries purpose. The problem is that many people quit emotionally before the breakthrough arrives. They stop expecting because they allowed delay to convince them that nothing good was ahead. You must protect your faith during difficult seasons because faith influences how you endure the process. A person without faith becomes controlled by fear, bitterness, and hopelessness. But a person with faith continues moving forward with expectation even in uncertainty. Faith gives strength to keep praying when answers seem delayed. Faith gives courage to keep trying after disappointment. Faith reminds you that your current condition is not your final destination. Sometimes God allows waiting seasons because he wants people to depend on him more deeply. During comfortable seasons, it is easy to become distracted or spiritually distant. But during difficult moments, prayer becomes more sincere. Worship becomes more meaningful. Trust becomes more personal. Hard seasons often create stronger spiritual foundations because people learn to rely on God daily instead of relying on temporary comfort. You also have to be careful about the voices you listen to during waiting seasons. Negative voices can weaken faith quickly. Some people will speak based only on logic, fear, or visible circumstances. They will tell you to lower your expectations, stop believing, or give up on what God placed in your heart. But not every voice deserves your agreement. Faith grows when you surround yourself with truth, encouragement, and reminders of God's promises. The enemy attacks hardest when breakthrough is near because he wants to stop you before the blessing arrives. That is why some of the most difficult battles happen right before major change. Pressure increases, doubt grows louder, frustration becomes heavier, but those moments are often signs that something is shifting spiritually. Do not mistake resistance for abandonment. Even if you feel tired, keep praying. Even if you feel discouraged, keep trusting. Even if the process feels long, refuse to surrender your faith. God sees every tear, every prayer, and every moment you chose to believe despite the struggle. The waiting season will not last forever, and your faith during the delay is preparing you for the breakthrough that is still ahead. There is a reason God's timing rarely matches human timing. People naturally want immediate answers, quick solutions, and instant breakthroughs. Human nature becomes uncomfortable with waiting, because waiting creates uncertainty. It forces people to live without full control. But God's timing is never random. Every blessing, every opportunity, every breakthrough, and every answered prayer carries an appointed time that is connected to purpose. Many people become frustrated because they measure their lives according to their own schedules. They create timelines in their minds about when certain things should happen. They expect success by a certain age, healing within a certain period, or restoration within a specific season. But when life unfolds differently than expected, disappointment begins to grow. They wonder why God allowed the delay. They question why others seem to move ahead while they remain in the waiting season. What people often fail to understand is that God sees what human eyes cannot see. He understands the complete picture while humanity sees only small fragments of it. A person may think they are ready for something today, but God knows what tomorrow comes. He knows the responsibilities attached to the blessing. He knows the spiritual battles connected to the opportunity. He knows the people, environments, and circumstances surrounding your future. Because of that, his timing is based on wisdom rather than emotion. God never releases blessings carelessly. When he opens a door, he does so with intention. When he delays something, there is purpose behind the delay. Sometimes the delay is connected to preparation. Other times it is connected to protection. There are moments when people desperately desire something that would actually harm them if received too early. In the moment, they cannot understand it, but later they realize that God's delay prevented unnecessary pain. There are relationships people cried over losing that later proved to be dangerous. There are opportunities people desperately wanted that would have distracted them from their true purpose. There are closed doors that felt unfair at the time but eventually became evidence of God's protection. Human understanding is limited, but God's wisdom extends far beyond the present moment. The challenge is remaining patient while waiting for God's timing to unfold. Patience is difficult because people naturally compare their lives to others. Comparison creates frustration because it causes people to focus on what they do not yet have instead of trusting the process God designed specifically for them. Someone else's breakthrough may come earlier, but that does not mean your blessing is absent. Every person has a unique assignment, a unique journey, and a unique timing. God is not in a hurry because he is never late. Humans panic when things seem delayed, but God moves according to perfect timing. What feels late to you may actually be right on schedule from heaven's perspective. The problem is that people often want God to move according to their emotions instead of according to his wisdom. There are seasons when nothing appears to change externally, yet God is actively arranging things internally and spiritually. He may be preparing your heart for greater responsibility. He may be strengthening your character so success does not destroy you. He may be removing pride, fear, or unhealthy habits before releasing the next level of your life. Those hidden seasons are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. One of the greatest dangers during waiting seasons is becoming bitter. Bitterness develops when people stop trusting God's timing and begin focusing only on their disappointment. They become angry because life did not unfold the way they expected. Over time, frustration hardens the heart and weakens faith. But bitterness blinds people to the goodness of God. It causes them to overlook the ways he has already been faithful. Instead of allowing delays to create bitterness, people must allow delays to build trust. Trust says, even though I do not understand this season, I believe God still knows what he is doing. That kind of faith, CR, eats peace during uncertainty. It allows people to remain hopeful even when answers seem far away. There is also a difference between delay and denial. Just because something has not happened yet does not mean it will never happen. Many blessings require the right timing because timing affects impact. A breakthrough released too early may not carry the same purpose or effectiveness. God understands when the environment is ready, when your heart is ready, and when the moment will bring the greatest glory to him. When God finally releases what has been delayed, it often happens in ways greater than people imagined. The waiting season makes the blessing more meaningful because people understand the process behind it. They recognize that it was not human strength alone that brought them through. It was God's guidance, God's favor, and God's faithfulness carrying them through every difficult moment. There are people listening who feel tired of waiting. They feel like they have prayed for the same thing over and over without visible change. But this is not the time to lose hope. God has not forgotten you. Your prayers still matter. Your tears still matter. Your faithfulness during the waiting season still matters. The blessing connected to your life has an appointed time. The breakthrough connected to your future has an appointed time. The doors God